Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with the FX Market Insight for Monday, the 13th of May. All right, now just starting on the news pages, just to give you a bit of heads up. Now, it doesn't look like it's concrete yet, but the US and Trump are trying to apply greater pressure to China on this whole trade talks, adding extra tariffs if they don't come up with a deal, sort of really pushing China to do a deal with particularly the US. And the US aren't worried about anyone else. I mean, they're the ones fighting these guys. So now, what's the reaction on the currencies? Well, it's pretty mixed. Now, this article up here, cautious optimism on the US dollar as the dollar bounces. Now, that was like 7 or 8 hours ago, and the dollar is lower. So just be careful what articles you read to the time frame, because things have changed somewhat. Now, if I just give you a quick look what that does for the major currency pairs, just having a look across to the charts. Now, there are some gaps here that you need to be aware of. The Aussie, obviously the Aussie and Kiwi, which did gap, and dollar yen last week, the gaps aren't as prominent, but we have to sort of wait and see if there's no talk about, we're going to add tariffs, but what they are, how big they are, and what the implications are. So it's still, the market's still trying to work this out. Don't forget, it is still the weekend in Europe and North America. So the gaps here in the Aussie, somewhere around sort of 20 points, sort of a little bit more on the Kiwi, slightly a bit more, and about 20 or 30 points on dollar yen. Now, Euro and sterling have pretty much just been cruising to the sideways, I should say. A little bit of a tiny little gap here on dollar CAD, but it's not really doing too much. So the pairs that were impacted mostly last week, Aussie, Kiwi, and dollar yen, just be a little bit cautious as you sort of run into those trading opportunities today. Now, if I just bring you back across, funnily enough, these are the pairs in the MyFX Trading Hub that do have, a slight directional impact from these China issues. Dollar yen, the yen safe haven trade. Then you've got the Aussie and Kiwi, the two currencies that do benefit from Chinese growth. Okay, so slightly, as I said, not as prevalent as last week. Monday open gaps, particularly on these pairs. The news does support these currencies lower, but you know what? They've gapped 20 points and they've sort of retraced to where they were. So traders are unsure now exactly how to play this one out. Now, the core market drivers, I mean, this has been a thorn in our side for so long. The China-US situation, and obviously Brexit. With China sort of in play, you'll hear less about Brexit. And once that China deal or China-US either do come up with a deal or don't, that's when that will Brexit will come back into play. Fundamentally, to me, okay, the Bank of CAD was somewhat neutral to dovish, and you got sort of concerns from the ECB, the RBA, and the RBNZ all on sort of global growth. That still sits around. So, there's a bit of a disconnection between the technicals and fundamentals at the moment. That's what's making trading very sporadic. And what we're seeing is very minute occasions where we do get clear momentum from these upcoming events. But even then, the price action has been somewhat disjointed because of the lack of direction. And because there's no trend lines and the currencies aren't really going anywhere, traders globally, I'm talking more about the banks, sort of wondering where to get in, where to get out. There's not that many trend lines around. So trading is a little bit more volatile and erratic than usual. Okay, so make sure you understand that's the way the market is just at the moment. And if you come back down here to just scrolling down, like to see where the next bit of action is for the start of the week. Okay, Australian housing finance numbers. Yeah, that's sort of important. Don't forget, Australia has a national election coming up. Now, it's not a huge market volatile activity, but just be aware that is coming into play for the Aussie. Housing finance numbers, well, the housing market is under pressure. Those numbers may give the Aussie some sort of significance. But once again, the China-US news dominates all the fundamentals, so that may not come into play. We've got the weekly traders meeting, 10:30, to try and cover all time zones for traders. And then you're really starting to look into Tuesday onwards from here, where we do get, the average earnings, some UK data, European data, then some key Aussie data. And actually down here, if you scroll down, you'll see there's some really significant Chinese data. You've got the industrial production numbers, but with this number as well, there's also retail sales. There's some investor numbers. There's a whole range of things. So that's going to be an important number for the Aussie and Kiwi come Wednesday. And then you've got the Canadian CPI, huge number. To me, a big focus will be the Australian employment numbers. And then we've got some bit of a mixed bag there on some US data. Polo's speaking, okay, on Thursday. It's going to be, he's talking about the Bank of Canada review of the financial system. So that's going to be pretty important. And then, we just sort of cruise into the week. We sort of some mid to low important numbers, which is really good because then we start to get some flow with the currencies. But until we get some sort of clarity around this China-US situation, what we've got to do is just sort of wait and roll with the punches. Okay, at this point, many traders are just waiting to see what the exact details of these trade tariffs are, and that will lead to the next major trading opportunity. All right, guys, it's a really good day to get your charts up to speed. Now, I've just sort of blown these charts up myself, Aussie, Kiwi, and Dollar Yen in particular. So come back, get your charts tuned up. There has been a couple of little slight tweaks here on a few of these pairs. So you do need to adjust your levels accordingly. All right, that's it for me, guys. Have a good trade week. We'll see you in the 247 trade zone. Cheerio.